Hi everyone, Wuju Senshi here. It's been a while since I've uploaded to my YouTube channel, so sorry about that. And I know I haven't put out a guide like this for a while, but thought it'd be a good time now that I'm done with my exam and the preseason patch just hit to give you all my thoughts on what this next season, preseason and season 12, is going to look like for Yi, including what I think are the best ways to play him and optimal builds, things like that. And I'll be going over the patch notes and just giving my thoughts on that too. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it here. So I'll start off by just giving a quick overview of these patch notes. So try to keep it as brief as I possibly can. Okay, objective bounties. So I'm sure, or I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure these are going to get nerfed. I think they're a little bit too strong right now, but I'll say that overall I think objective bounties are a good thing for Yi. Yi in general is not the kind of champ to do as well early compared to some other junglers, and you'll usually be playing from behind more often than you're playing from ahead, unless you're, smurfing or, you're a coin flip invade gank style player. But yeah, for the most part, I think objective bounties are good for Yi because late game scaling champs like Yi will often be behind in the early game, and then you can use that to cash in on these objective bounties later on. Which, by the way, as you know, Yi is pretty good at securing objectives because he's power farming and he can just fit in a dragon or a rift herald or split push for a tower or something while he's farming and let the enemy team do their clown fiestas. So this is a good thing for you, is the point I'm trying to make here. And you should definitely be prioritizing first Rift Herald as usual. That hasn't changed. The first Rift Herald is extremely valuable in order to get tower plates with it before 14 minutes. But also those early dragons become a lot more important now too, especially if you can get an objective value from it. So especially if your team is not doing as well and everyone on your team's falling behind, you really shouldn't give up. You really shouldn't be too disheartened because it could just be an opportunity for you to get one of these objective bounties. I think that's yeah, and they're huge bounties. 500 gold for a Drake or Rift Herald. I mean, that's pretty huge, and then it can be increased by another 60%. So yeah, I think players who don't FF or who are just at least a little bit more willing to play games out are going to be rewarded this patch. These new dragons, I'm kind of whatever about them. I don't think they're going to necessarily change much. I mean, they're nice to have on Yi. Like this Hextech Drake, sure, an extra 5% attack speed. Why not? These drags are definitely not bad on Yi. I've been playing as much preseason as I've been able to, but I don't think I've gotten a Chemtech Soul, or maybe I got a Chemtech Soul like one time. And I don't think I've ever gotten a Hextech Soul yet, so I can't speak on the power of these souls from first-hand experience. But I feel like just based off what I believe, I imagine that the Hextech Soul would be pretty good on Yi. The Static Shiv and the slowing is really nice, especially for on-hit Yi. And the Chemtech, I feel like the Chemtech Soul would be really good if you're playing Duskblade Yi. Because even if you end up getting one shot, you can come back to life and then just finish the job and one-shot them, even though they use their Zonies the first time or something. I feel like Chemtech Soul would be really good with Duskblade one-shot Yi. It's still not bad with the other, like with on-hit Yi as well. Yeah, that's pretty much all the thoughts I have to give on that. Let's see. I think this Cloud Soul is honestly just kind of, it's almost worse than what it was last season. But whatever. It's still not a great drag either way, both last season and now. Let's see. So these new mage items, some of them are a little bit annoying, especially if you're a Dustblade user. I think Dustblade Yi is gonna really hate facing this Crown of the Shattered Queen, but I think if you're playing on hit with true damage maxing, it's not gonna be that bad because this item reduces damage when you have this safeguard thing, but that doesn't matter if you're doing true damage as Yi with an on-hit build. So I think against these mages that build this item, definitely Duskblade becomes worse. So sucks if you like Duskblade, but I don't really like Duskblade. Even Shroud, kind of an annoying item if you're gonna face it, but having it on your team is gonna make, I think, especially Duskblade D stronger. So having an engage support on your team as Duskblade D becomes even better if they build this item because they amplify your damage. Axiom Mark, a lot of people, are talking about this item and people are wondering if it's good on Yi. I really, at the moment, do not think it's such a strong item on Yi. I feel like for the most part, the job it's supposed to do is like you already have it this built in to your kits essentially. Like whenever you get a reset, your ult is extended. So by the time if you get a lot of resets, then your ult is going to be so extended that like by the time your ult finally ends, your ult cooldown is like almost over, if not already up again. So that's what Axiomark is supposed to do, but Yi can already like he doesn't need this. Is the point I'm trying to make. I don't think this really fits in many of your builds. The gold efficiency, if I recall correctly, isn't amazing. So yeah, it's just I don't think it's gonna be something you build often on Yi. We'll see. We'll see how that if and how that changes. But I don't think at the moment you're gonna really build it ever on Yi. It's probably just stick with the other lethality items if you're gonna build them. Let's see, Shadow Flame. That's kind of whatever. Who cares? Even if I'll also say this: if you're facing Serpent's Fang as a Yi with Sterax and maybe a Spirit Visage and just all these shielding items, yeah, it really sucks to face a Serpent's Fang. But if you're facing someone with Shadow Flame, this AP version of Serpent's Fang, I don't think you really need to be discouraged from building shielding items. It's really not a big deal. This is supposed to be the AP version of Serpents, but it's really not. Like, I don't think it's going to be that bad to face. Even if you have a lot of shielding, like you have a gargoyles or something, and you're facing this item, don't freak out. It's really not the end of the world. Feel free to build shield items against AP champs that build this item. It's not a big deal. Okay, we can move along here. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about a lot of these tank items. I mean, yeah, I don't think any of the changes are really so concerning or notable for Yi as far as I know. What I do think is interesting though is this Force of Nature change. So this basically became it's like an AP version of Death's Dance, but it's harder to get this. Death's Dance cancels or it mitigates a certain amount of AD damage right off the bat, but this thing you need to stack it first for it to mitigate 20% of magic damage, not even the 35% of Death's Dance. So it's not as good, but I think it's still a really good buy against teams with a lot of AP on them. I don't think it's something you'd ever rush. I think the earliest you'd ever get it is third. Fourth is probably, even third is really early. But I do think you should keep this on your radar against champs or with comps with a lot of AP damage. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to say here? Not really. Oh yeah, so I mean, as everyone here probably knows, they buffed Duskblade Eclipse for melee users, Prowlers as well. I mean, we don't really use Prowlers, but Duskblade obviously Yi uses. It's gonna be stronger. And I have been trying Duskblade build. It does feel, it feels really nice having this 100 gold cheaper Duskblade as well as extra damage. So the build definitely feels stronger. It could be just it could be coincidence, maybe I've just had a bunch of lucky games, but it does feel better. Eclipse, I haven't actually tried Eclipse yet, the new version of it, but you may know I like using Eclipse on Yi in certain games. So we'll see. I mean, this 8 seconds to 6 second cooldown is pretty, that is a pretty significant buff in my opinion, but we'll see. I still think Eclipse is, if nothing else, it's just better than what it used to be. But yeah, well, I haven't tested enough to say how much better it feels. Yeah, First Strike, I've tested this a little bit on Yi, and I've realized it's pretty hard to get a lot of usage out of it, especially because so you need to attack people first, and if they even touch you before you've dealt some damage to them, this keystone's completely useless. So as Yi, a melee user, that's pretty hard. So I think this rune is more meant for poke champions, and I'm not really thinking we're going to get a lot of usage out of it as Yi. Especially because also we're going to be losing out on other keystones like Lethal Tempo or Hill of Blades. Really not worth it is what I think right now. Maybe they'll buff it, but I don't know. I feel like I'd be surprised if they buffed this, and even if they did buff it, I don't know if it'd be ever worth going aside from other keystones. I think this rune is mostly meant for things like Karthus, Lux, Fiddlesticks, I don't know, stuff like that. let's see. Okay, so lethal tempo. This is kind of the highlight of this preseason, honestly, in my opinion. I think new lethal tempo is really good on Yi. I've been spamming it a lot on my diamond account, and on that Smurf, I've been getting like just really um, insane games. I'll show you. It's yeah, like it's just been kind of a slaughter fest. Like I've been running it with Ghost, pretty much every game. And I definitely, this is like my default build right now, is to go lethal tempo, Ghost, on hit Yi, and like it's 26, 10, 14, 3, or sorry, that's a Dustblade game, but yeah, 13, 5, 4, 1, 10, 7, 9, 1, 21, 5. Yeah, I mean, you can scroll through this OPGG yourself, but I've gotten like a ton of quadra kills since preseason patch, and just like a lot of 20 plus, even like close to 30 bomb, I think in one time. Like, it's really good. I really think it's kind of reminiscent of Season 10 Yi when you had a lot of attack speed with the items back then. So I recommend giving it a try. I do think Ghost it does make a big difference having Ghost with this build versus not having it. So if you try Lethal Tempo and you're not finding success with it, I would recommend trying it with Ghost. I really feel like Ghost with Tempo makes a lot of sense and it makes you feel a lot better. I guess I'll just comment also on the fact that this Keystone now gives you 90% attack speed. Once you stack it, it takes 6 like stacks to get it, but once you have it, you get 90% extra attack speed, which is a significant buff to what Lethal Tempo used to give you, which was, I think it was 40 to 110%. So you didn't get 90% attack speed until like level 13, 14, last patch. So now you get access to that attack speed like from level 1 and you get it like permanently as long as you keep fighting people, so there's no 6-second window that you have to use it. Like, it's just really, it's so much better. And for Yi, and the fact that Kraken now exists in the game, that extra attack speed with Kraken is insanely strong. So I would recommend giving Lethal Tempo more of a try if you haven't already. Alright, that brings us to the end of these patch notes, so I will show you my builds. This is a spreadsheet that I will link in the description of this video. It's the same spreadsheet that I was updating Season 11 builds on. I've updated it now for Season 12. Basically, the overall rundown of what I think works this season is, I think there are a lot of different playstyles that work, and I've kind of sorted them into 4 categories here. I think definitely my favorite right now is, as I said, this Lethal Tempo with Ghost on hit playstyle. And I mean, I could go into each of these in detail, but that would take forever. I don't want to bore you to death. So basically what I'll say is that I think the most consistent way to play Lethal Tempo on hit Yi is to rush Kraken first, and right after that you go straight tank. So what that would look like, I think the safest build path you could go is something like Kraken Sterax into either Death's Dance or Spirit Visage. One of these two, I mean, one gives you armor, one gives you MR, so depending on, if you have if there's threats on the enemy team that are mostly AD, go into Death's Dance. If the enemy Veigar is really strong, get Visage. I think against mixed damage, like if no one on the enemy team is particularly stronger than everyone else, but they still are doing a lot of damage, you want to go Spirit Visage, because Spirit Visage amplifies your healing and your shielding from Sterax. I don't know if you're aware of this combo, but Sterax and Spirit Visage together are it's like an insanely good combo because they both just complement each other so well. So yeah, when in doubt, just get Sterax into Spirit Visage. But Death's Dance also, if they have any AD threats, is extremely good. The idea behind this build is it makes you very tanky, but you still do truly plenty of damage. You really do not need to be worried about lacking damage unless the enemy has a 10k Cho'Gath or something. With your Lethal Tempo and Kraken, you'll be doing plenty of damage, and you just need to survive to be able to pump out that DPS. So this is a really nice build. Just having these 4 items here, really good. You could pretty much spam it every game, and you could climb with it. I'm pretty confident when I say that. That said, if the enemy team has it's a very it's almost completely AD. You know, if you're facing almost all AD, then getting Kraken into Death Dances I think is really good. You don't have to get the stack second. Death Dance second item works very well against heavy AD comps. Similarly, if the enemy has a lot of AP, you could just go Wits End right after your Kraken. But you don't have to go Wits End. Even if the enemy team is like all AP, you could still just go Kraken, Sterak's, Visage. Like I was saying, that's a very safe build that works into like any game pretty much. The only game where you don't want to necessarily go Sterak's, Visage is if the enemy team like rushes Serpent's Fang. Then you're missing out on a lot of the value of this combo. The Sterak's Visage combo, it gives you a big shield from Sterak's, and the Serpent's Fang user would cut it in half. So just be careful about Serpent's Fang. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of that's really what I think is the best Yi build right now this season, and it feels so good. Again, you can look at my Uwu Senshi OPGG and see for yourself. Yeah, but in addition to that, these on-hit playstyles, I think crit builds are also pretty good. Again, with Lethal Tempo or Hail Blades. I think something that, I don't see Yi mains building this kind of way very often, but I think it's kind of underrated, and I'm not going to go into the details of when, I guess, okay, I'll give you just to try to keep it as brief as possible. Basically, I think crit builds are nice when you want to one-shot people, right? Just like a Duskblade build, but you also need to be able to shred through some tanky people. Like maybe they have someone who maybe have like an Olaf who heals a lot and you can't really one-shot him, but you need a little bit of damage over time to kill him, or maybe they have some tanks, but other than that they have a lot of squishies. Like maybe they have 2 AD carries or something. In games like that where you want to be able to both one-shot and shred tanky / bruisery enemies, I think crit works really well. So I think the most standard build you could go is with Lethal Tempo, Kraken, PD, IE. I also have been trying this build where you go Kraken straight into a Mercurial Scimitar. Basically, the idea here is that against champions like Malzahar, Lysandra, Skarner, those champs on the enemy team that you absolutely hate to face as Yi, you could just go this build and getting an early QSS, like normally you're paying a tax to buy that QSS, right? But here, what you're doing is you're still getting your IE as your 3rd item power spike. So you're still getting a really good 3-item power spike. You're not delaying that by getting the QSS. It's just not quite as much damage as having a different crit item here. But yeah, I mean, now you can actually play the game against those champions like Malzahar, Lysandra, and you still do tons of damage. So I really like this build in those specific games, but it's really a situation, I'd say. This is another build that I'm not going to necessarily recommend you try unless you know what you're doing. But there are certain situational games where I really like the Gale Force build with crit. I'm not gonna get into that. I don't want to make this video get too long, so I can try to keep it as short as I can. All right, the lethality Duskblade one-shot build, as I've said, it's still really good this season. It's only better with the preseason patch and the buffed Duskblade. It's gonna feel bad into certain mage items like that Crown of the Shattered Queen that reduces damage. And Zani's of course still a thing. But yeah, it's nothing really has changed about this build. I still think this very standard Duskblade build path is fine. Getting a Serpent's Fang against shielders is pretty important, and you can do that as well with the Duskblade build. I still also like the Eclipse build, as I've talked about before in previous videos. And you can go look at that video if you want to learn more about when I think that build is good. There are times where I think it makes sense, and instead of Duskblade, but I haven't tried it that much yet, to be fair. So we'll see. And there's this other build. It's a kind of, I just call it Korean build here because it came from this Korean Master Yi's YouTube channel, and then I also have seen other Korean Yi players do this kind of a playstyle where they basically rush Dirk and then they go for Kraken, and then they just finish their Dirk into some kind of lethality item, and then they just get things like Sterak's, GA, I guess just kind of like, what would you call it? Yeah, just like those kind of basic defense items, I guess. The idea behind this build is getting an early Dirk lets you really accelerate an early lead as Yi, An early Dirk is extremely strong, one of the best buys you can get in the early game. But then you don't have to full invest in lethality. You can still go Kraken, because that scales really well into the late game. So, yeah, again, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this build. If you're interested in seeing the video that I'm talking about, there's this Korean Yi player who like explains it. It's going to be in Korean though, so you won't be able to understand it unless you're Korean. But you can kind of watch the video and maybe, figure out what he's trying to say. If you want to see that video, let me know, and I can link it in the comments later. And then lastly, this tanky playstyle, which is, I guess what I was talking about before with Lethal Tempo Kraken. It was kind of a tanky build, but you can take that to the next step and go Kraken and then just defensive items after that. And I think there are games where that's pretty necessary, especially if the enemy team has like a ton of CC, a ton of burst damage. Maybe they have things like a Cho'Gath and a Camille champs who are like gonna one-shot you with their true damage executes, and you just need to be tankier in order to not get one-shot. Yeah, certain games like that, I feel like the only way to really play Yi is to go this tank build, or to go lethality and to pray your team can set you up for one-shots. But that, I think that's more inconsistent. So basically, that build is going to look like Kraken into Sterak's into Spirit Visage. Again, looking for this like really strong defensive combo of Sterak's and Visage to amplify healing and shielding. And then right after that, you go Gargoyles for even more one-shot survival. And the shield from Gargoyles being amplified as well by Visage. There's another play style that I haven't really tried that much yet, and I want to go on record and say I am not responsible for you trying this build and maybe like losing some games because of it. I feel like I really think it has potential, but I want to caution you before you just first time it in ranked. I think Hullbreaker is one of the most gold efficient items in the game. I think it's 117. Yeah, it's 117% gold efficient, even if you don't get the solo lone wolf buff. But when you are like by yourself and you get the extra armor MR and stuff to minions, then it becomes like 143 to almost 200% gold efficient. So it's an insanely effective gold efficient item, I should say. And Yi has been a good split pusher historically, right? So split push Yi, if you play something like top Yi or even mid Yi, and you find yourself able to farm a side lane and do this build, it can be, I think, really effective, like on paper. But I haven't tested it much myself, so I'm not gonna go tell you that it's OP and that you should spam it in your games. Yeah, I think that basically summarizes kind of the main things I wanted to talk about here. You can let me know if you have any other questions or suggestions for different things I can talk about or videos I can make, or maybe if you thought there's a different way I should have gone about doing this video. And I know, sorry that these are always so scuffed when I make these kind of videos. I just want to put some kind of content out there so that you can at least hear what I recommend, and hopefully that'll help you win some games in the preseason and season 12 patches. Yeah, with that said, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you all next time. Take care. Bye.